Robert O'Neill, Assistant U.S. Attorney, Middle District, Florida. Mike Stevens, Detective, Orlando Police Department. Trinka Parada, Director, Project GHB. Dr. Eric Voth, Chairman, Institute on Global Drug Policy and an Addiction Specialist. Kimberly Flanner, a victim of a predatory drugging.
Did you guys hear about that girl who got dosed with GHB?
Yeah, someone slipped GHB in her soda.
What happened? Did she die?
Yeah, she and her friends were hanging out at somebody's house with some older guys.
Yeah, the girls weren't even drinking. They just asked for a soda.
The guy slipped GHB into them and both the girls passed out.
One girl died, and the other girl lost her best friend.
A couple took GHB at a party. The girl was raped by a friend. That friend was acquitted for sexual assault. Later, the boyfriend hung himself from the guilt he felt. It's a fact.
Over the course of my career, I've seen a number of cases in which people have been victimized by predatory drugs, where they didn't even know that they were being given these drugs, and where it's had very serious consequences. In fact, just recently we prosecuted a case in this district in which the victim who received GHB died.
The police call this drug victimization.
What exactly is that?
It's when someone is unknowingly drugged and harmed in any way. Sexually assaulted, robbed, whatever.
How do you know?
Because my dad's a cop. He warns me about this all the time. He tells me to be careful when I go out because he says the police are seeing this more nowadays than ever.
Drug-facilitated sexual assault has become a major problem in a variety of cultures, mostly in the club culture, mostly in the after-hour bar culture. One, because the drugs are prevalent. You have GHB, you have GBL, you have ketamine, you have Rohypnol, you have a lot of prescription drugs that can be used for the same thing.
I have a friend that when she was, she went to a party with a whole bunch of older people, and she was hanging out with this guy that she really liked, and he gave her something, but she didn't know about it. And then he started trying to get up all on her, and she went unconscious for a little bit, and then she couldn't really remember. But she remembered trying to push him off her. Then she couldn't call her mom because she was at a party that she wasn't allowed to be at. So she was trying to find someone to give a ride home, but they're all friends of the other guy, so she couldn't get a ride home. So she just kind of had to avoid him the rest of the night.
Yeah. A lot of these stories go where people are just hanging out and the older guys they slip it in there.
I don't think someone could slip me something without me knowing it.
That's what most people think, but it's usually someone you know and feel comfortable with.
All it takes is a quick sec for somebody to drop something in your drink when you turn your head.
I guess you're right. It's pretty hard to watch you drink the entire time, especially when you're with people that you think you can trust.
You're not just seeing it at rave clubs, you're seeing it at regular bars, you're seeing it at school, you're seeing it in high schools, colleges, after parties, homecoming parties, regular, just normal everyday dates. So a lot of people think that, this could only happen to my daughter, my son, if they go to a rave. Not true.
Everybody needs to be concerned about the possibility of being drugged. For whatever purpose, you can be drugged to be sexually assaulted, you can be drugged to be robbed.
The drugs that are available for it are out there. And when you combine that with people who will do criminal acts to obtain what they want, whether it be property, whether it be sexual gratification, then you're going to have drug-facilitated sexual assaults.
We see that people do this random drugging just for laughs, just to see somebody fall out and throw up and take the risk of dying. It can happen to anybody, anytime, any place.
So basically it could happen to any one of us.
Date rape drugs are now being called predator drugs.
So why are they called date rape in the first place?
Because a lot of times a girl will go out on a date with a guy and he'll slip her something that knocks her out.
And when she's unconscious, the guy totally takes advantage.
Yeah, and most of the times when the drug wears off, the victim knows she's had sex, but she can't remember where, when, or with whom.
People even work together to drug a victim. Then after that, they invite their friends over for the party.
That's sick.
Yeah, but it happens every day.
My name is Kimberly Flenner. I'm 34 years old, and I live in Sacramento, California. 3.5 years ago, I was victimized by someone trying to slip me a drug in a drink at a bar. And I had gone out with a group of friends, 2 other girlfriends, and I had gone out to a local sports bar in the area. I was the designated driver, so I was not going to be drinking, and if I did, it would just be probably 1 drink for the evening. We met up at the sports bar with the group of people that were there that offered my friends a drink. They seemed very nice, personable, clean cut, and they offered me a drink. One of the guys had talked me into it, tried to sit down and bond with me. We had something in common. He was close to my age, seemed very nice, quiet. Said he was a single dad. I explained that I was a single mom, and we talked for a little bit, and I felt a little more comfortable, so I thought it would be okay. The only thing I really would drink would be a shot of tequila. So he said that would be fine. He would get a shot of tequila. So the next thing I know, he brought me a little shot, and it was clear, not like the tequila I had before. So I questioned it at first, but again, he didn't look suspicious in any way. So I did take the drink. It didn't taste at all like tequila or any tequila I'd ever had. I immediately said so. He assured me it was. I started to feel nauseous, sick. The room started to spin, and I knew something wasn't right. I decided I better grab my friend. So I grabbed her and indicated we needed to go to the restroom, that something was wrong. I wasn't feeling good. And that's the last thing I remember. I somehow made it to the restroom door. My friend screamed for my other friend, who came in there as I was turning blue. I had been unconscious. They screamed for the bartender to call 911. At that point, the person who had slipped me the drink came into the restroom where I was. She kept screaming at him, "What did you do? What did you do?" He indicated that he was sorry. She could hear him tell me he was sorry. I don't remember any of it. Obviously, I was unconscious at that point. His friend then came to the door yelling at him that they needed to get out of there because the cops were coming. So they left.
Anyone who would drug someone to get what they want is total whack.
It's like they're such losers. Like, you can't smooth talk a lady. I mean, for real.
Really? They can't have a normal relationship with a girl, so they have to drug her to get what they want?
I think everyone probably assumes that these people are creepy, dirty, and sketchy looking.
You would think so, but it's actually the opposite. You couldn't pick these people out of a crowd.
You won't know them when you see them.
Once I had gotten to the hospital, they had pumped my stomach. They started running tests, initially checking for alcohol poisoning, and tested my blood alcohol level and realized it wasn't that. And so they ran further tests and found that it was GHB in my system. And evidently I had been given a straight shot of GHB. And had my friend not have gone into the restroom with me, I probably wouldn't be here today.
Instructions for mixing predator drugs include always wear rubber gloves and safety goggles. Then they give it to their victims to drink. It's a fact.
Is GHB the most common predatory drug?
Probably, because it's an odorless liquid. When slipped into a drink, it's hard to taste.
What is GHB anyway?
Gamma hydroxybutyrate.
In English, please.
Basically an industrial floor stripper and drain opener.
What?
You heard me. Industrial strength floor stripper and drain opener.
In reality, GHB, the ingredients that make up GHB, include an industrial grade paint stripper. Industrial grade paint stripper. It'll take the paint right off of your hardwood floors. You mix that with drain cleaner and you drink it.
GHB is what's actually technically called gamma hydroxybutyrate and falls into a category of being a volatile hydrocarbon. Strangely enough, of itself, that hydrocarbon causes the intoxicated kind of state.
I often ask young people to consider a whole list of things. And the first question is, would you walk out to Dad's garage and grab the first can of paint stripper that you see and drink it? And of course, they're looking at me like I'm insane by that point. Well, if you take GHB, that's exactly what you've done, because it is paint stripper.
GHB's major effect is going to be really twofold, one on the liver and the other on the brain. Its most pronounced effect, though, is on the brain. People get a very intense intoxication with it, and depending upon the concentration that they get exposed to, that may be a mild intoxication on one hand or a very intense intoxication on the other, and then rapidly lapsing into coma. So it's very difficult to judge, and it's not like taking a pill that's been very carefully manufactured and predictable. It's a complete crapshoot.
It's a scary chemical, scary chemicals involved, and the effects of them are really, really very scary.
If you think about what happens when a person is exposed to GHB, first they're taking it orally. It's absorbed through the stomach and also on down into the GI tract, into the bloodstream.
With GHB and GBL, you're going to get almost a drunken stupor type feeling, but it's going to be rapid, and it's going to be an onset that's going to be very quick.
Bloodstream carries it to the brain, and several things happen there. First of all, the drug itself affects the neurotransmitters in the brain, and that results in the intoxicated feeling.
You're going to feel nauseous because you're taking sodium and potassium hydroxide and you're drinking floor stripper. So your stomach is not going to react very well to that.
We had one young lady who did drink pH that hadn't been controlled. It was pH 14, which is drain cleaner. And every 4 months, the scar tissue in her throat shuts down, and every 4 months they have to roto-root her throat out in order for her to continue to exist for the rest of her life.
What other drugs do these creeps use?
Roofies?
Yes, roofies or Rohypnol.
What's that?
They're these little pills, sedatives, or sleeping pills. They're like 10 times stronger than Valium.
The thing that makes roofies appealing to sexual predators is that they have no taste or color and can be crushed and dissolved in liquid.
I mean, there are other drugs out there. These are the ones that get the most press and are probably the most prevalent being used, but that doesn't mean they're the only ones. So there's a wide variety of them. Most of them are going to be sedative depressants, the object being to put the person to sleep or to relax the person or to make the person pass out.
Predatory drugs are in some ways the worst, because when you talk about marijuana, you have to smoke it for the most part. Lots of people know there are health consequences with smoking. With cocaine, you have to ingest it in some way. Heroin, you mainline it. Generally, you'll shoot it into your veins. And that a lot of people find kind of disgusting. But a pill, how bad can a pill be? We all take aspirin. We all take medication from time to time. So a little liquid form or a pill, it's very easy to take. How bad can it be?
There's any number of drugs that can be used. We commonly hear about alcohol and roofies and GHB as being rape drugs, or drugs you could use to rob somebody.
Date rape drugs really are extremely dangerous. It's important to kind of think of them separately. GHB, for instance, is extremely dangerous. There's a very tight threshold between when a person has an intoxicated feeling and when they go over the line into coma. A lot of the folks that work on the street with ambulance crews, etc., say that it's very common to see an individual heavily sedated and in seconds they just lapse into coma. So it's a very dangerous drug.
There's really about 36 plus drugs, including things like Valium, Xanax, Ativan, Halcyon sleeping pills, Benadryl, over-the-counter Benadryl, puts you to sleep if you don't know you're taking it, or if somebody mixes it on top of the fact you've had alcohol. There's animal tranquilizers, ketamine is one of them, Telazol. And the most common, of course, is just alcohol.
So what's the deal? Desperate guys drugging women they can't have otherwise?
Really, you girls need to watch your backs.
Hey, men can be victims too.
What are you talking about? You mean they rape men?
Well, they can, but they usually just rob the guys.
Well, so no one's safe from being drugged.
No one.
It can happen to women of any age, and it can happen to men. Men can be sexually assaulted. Most commonly would be by other men, and certainly can be robbed.
Drug-facilitated sexual assault amongst men is extremely common. In fact, probably that was the place where it got the most attention early, at least here in Orlando. We were seeing a lot of it at alternative lifestyle clubs.
So what about the cops? Can't they stop these people?
Well, it's pretty hard. You're better off protecting yourself. You gotta be aware of your surroundings at all times, you know?
So why is it so hard for police to prove these crimes?
Well, because they don't know what to look for. And the victims themselves make really lousy witnesses because they don't remember anything.
Drug-facilitated sexual assault, even just straight poisoning or the robbery situations, are very hard to prove, depending especially on which drug was used. Some of the drugs, especially GHB, are out of the system so rapidly that it's very difficult to detect in the testing. GHB is not commonly tested for, and so if we don't recognize it through lack of training of the officers and the local prosecutors or crime lab, they forget to test for a drug like GHB.
You know, people have been the victim of a crime, and yet because of the nature of the crime, someone has given them a drug, usually in a bar or in some social gathering at a party. Then they've had sex that perhaps that they didn't want. They feel embarrassed to bring that to the authorities.
A lot of these complaints don't get reported. A lot of these rapes don't get reported. So we end up trying to catch up and find out, you know, how many do we have? How big is the problem? And then after a while, you begin to realize it's a very large problem.
The other crazy thing that makes these crimes so hard to prove is that drugs like GHB leave your system pretty quickly.
I heard that GHB leaves your system in less than 12 hours, so you have to get to the police or a doctor and report it as soon as possible.
It's gone from the system very fast. The victim is very confused, doesn't understand, well, gee, I only had 2 drinks, how did I end up here, what happened to me? They're hesitant to come forward.
So when you start to feel that, the key is to grab a friend and get out of the club, or to let somebody in the club know, I'm sick, I may have been drugged, or to let an off-duty police officer know, I've been drugged, I need to get help.
Obviously, that makes it very difficult. The victim may not ever see her rapist. She doesn't necessarily know who raped her. It may be very difficult to establish who was responsible, and very difficult to draw the line between consent and lack of consent. Typically, the defense is, it was consensual sex. She came on to me. We had a good time, and then we had sex. Obviously, it was consensual. She's just lying when she says she can't remember it.
There's documented medical cases in which a person taking GHB or ecstasy for the very first time has had such severe medical consequences as a result that they've died.
Hospital ER cases involving GHB rose from 55 to nearly 5,000 in 6 years. It's a fact.
So what can we do to protect ourselves?
You should always keep an eye on your drink, no matter where you are.
Yeah, and if possible, keep your drink in a can or bottle and open it yourself.
Go out with close friends and always watch each other's backs.
And there are some classic examples of what you don't do in clubs or bars. You don't accept drinks from people, open drinks. If you're going to accept a bottle of water from somebody, make sure the bottle of water is sealed. If you're going to accept a Coke from somebody, make sure it's sealed. Never accept an open drink. Never leave your drink. Don't go to the bathroom and leave your drink sitting there alone. If you have a friend with you, have them watch your drink. Don't go out on the dance floor and dance and leave your drink sitting someplace. Those are the opportunities that allow a sexual predator to drug a drink.
If you think you've been drugged and raped, if you've been drugged just for a laugh or poisoning, you need to get to a hospital or a police station right away. And you need to demand that a urine sample be taken as soon as possible so that they can test for the drugs.
If you know that I haven't taken any alcohol tonight, I'm just here with friends, and then suddenly I begin to feel dizzy, I begin to feel queasy, I'm losing my balance, I'm starting to lose feeling in my extremities, those are danger signs.
The best thing you can do is immediately report it to the authorities. Go to the police, go to a health expert, and report what's happened.
When it really hit what had happened to me and what that person had done, I was very angry, realizing that I couldn't believe that people are actually out there doing that to people. It's very frightening.
So, what would you say to someone if they came to you thinking they've been raped but can't remember?
I'd tell them to go to the police immediately.
I tell them it's not their fault.
Everyone needs to be careful because everyone's at risk.
Drug Victimization Survival Guide. Always keep an eye on your drink. Try to drink beverages from their original containers. Watch while your drink is being prepared. Attend events with trusted friends. Watch out for one another. Be alert. Take notice of strangers and their behavior. If your drink smells, tastes, or looks unusual, do not drink it. Report the crime. Stop the criminal.